North Korea over the weekend continued to give updates on its top diplomat Choe Son-hui's visit to Russia, saying that Russian President Vladimir Putin expressed his willingness to visit Pyongyang in the near future. We're joined by Dr. Bruce Kilinger this morning. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. If Putin does visit the North, that will probably come after the Russian presidential election in March, right?
Right. The election is in mid-March, so one may think that the preparations for a summit visit would take longer than that. But whether it's before or after the mid-March Russian election, it certainly will raise concerns or growing concerns of what North Korea may get in return from Russia for all of the ammunition that Pyongyang has provided for Russian operations in Ukraine. So it's over 1 million shells, perhaps 2 million shells that have been transported. So some analysts think that perhaps Russia will give them the crown jewels of military technology, nuclear warhead designs, reentry vehicle, et cetera. I think it will more likely be secondary, but still very worrisome military technologies dealing with, say, conventional weapons or satellite reconnaissance.
Dr. Kilinger, the thing is there are growing concerns that North Korea may stage major provocations in the coming weeks or even months ahead of the April general election here in South Korea, because the North has done that multiple times in the past. What is Pyongyang really trying to achieve here?
Well, North Korea always does provocations before South Korean elections, except when they don't. So there have been a number of elections that they didn't do provocations. But certainly this year is expected to be quite a bumpy year. We've seen very strong North Korean rhetoric, as well as some artillery fire in the West Sea in just the first few days of January. And so whether it's tied to elections or not, we certainly are expecting an increased level of provocations, missile launches. And when I was in Seoul last week talking with government officials, they said they couldn't rule out another tactical deadly attack, such as the 2010 attacks on the Cheonan and Yangpyeong-do.
Then will the North's strategy work? What do you think? How successful will it be?
Well, if we tie it to the elections, there's long been the concern about what's called the northern wind. But I really wonder how many voters would actually be swayed. I think North Korean provocative action would simply affirm in both progressive and conservative minds their pre-existing idea. For progressives, they would see this as increased tension as the result of a conservative administration being too hard on North Korea, and they would want to vote progressives. Conversely, conservatives would say this reveals the true nature of the North Korean regime, and we must have a firm, principled policy by maintaining conservatives in office. So I don't really think it'll really sway the voters, but we don't know if North Korea understands that, and they may still do the provocations, whether it's tied to the election or other strategies.
Definitely. And the northern limit line, which is the de facto inter-Korean maritime border, is where tensions may escalate, with Kim Jong-un, the leader himself, pledging not to recognize the NLL. Why this area? I mean, what significance does it carry?
Well, it has been the site of several deadly clashes between the Koreas, not only the Cheonan and Yangpyeong-do, but other naval battles. The northern limit line was drawn by the UN command shortly after the Korean War, really as a way of preventing South Korean forces from going to north. North Korea has always disputed the boundary, but it wasn't really until the 1970s or so that they increased their denial of the legitimacy of the de facto maritime border. So they have a different view of where the NLL is. They see it as further south. So that's why we've had several clashes between the Koreas in that area. By Kim kind of affirming that North Korea does not accept the UN command or Southern interpretation of the NLL, it could be a signal that we can see more provocations, perhaps even naval clashes in what used to be the buffer zone under the Comprehensive Military Agreement, which North Korea recently abrogated.
Indeed. Dr. Kilinger, before I let you go, last Friday, the North apparently tested an underwater nuclear weapon system under the development in response to the latest joint maritime drills between South Korea, the U.S., and Japan. Why is the North showing off such underwater nuclear weapons?
Well, it's a continuation of all the other weapons systems that they've been showing not only in the past year, but for the past several years. So we've seen several different types of ICBMs, which can threaten the entire continental United States. Now, with the Hwasong-18, it's a solid fuel. They've also recently successfully launched the reconnaissance satellite. Also, very recently, a solid fuel intermediate range missile, as well as any number of short-range missiles. So this is a way of augmenting their land-based system to have a maritime or naval attack system against U.S. and South Korean ships. And by having it, as they declare, nuclear tipped, obviously that's very worrisome.
Definitely. All right. Thanks so much for your insights. As always, Dr. Kilinger, you have a good night there.
Okay. Thank you very much.